Hello, I want to tell you about my YouTube index tool. It's a prototype that I vibe coded rapidly. I was actually quite stunned myself how quickly this all came together. So I'm going to talk you through what I built. So, what's the purpose of the tool? Well, if we are looking in a book, this one is obviously Conversational Design by Erica Hall. If you're looking for information in a book, it's really simple what you do. You jump straight to the end and you go to the index. Let's say I'm a researcher. Quite often I write articles where I have to pull resources from various places, and I want to do that quickly. So if I'm working with a book, I will just go to the index and check that the specific term I'm looking for is in there. Let's say I'm wanting to find out about graphical user interfaces. So I can see right here, I would only have to jump to page 3 to find out where that is. That's great. It's an obvious process. We know how to do that with a book or other text documents. I could also just do Control F and search something. Don't even need to use the index. It takes me direct to where I want to go. So, what do you do when you're looking at a video? Or specifically, a YouTube video? Here's an example I'm going to use, which I've picked randomly. It's just a TEDx short. And so, we can look here that there's very little information here. There's contextual information to tell me what this video is about. That's one thing. It's like the overall topic summary. That's great. But let's say I want to find out what specific terms are discussed in this video to see if it's going to be useful for me. How would I do that? Well, I basically can't. There's often in YouTube videos, you get a description, you get the chapters. Which help. It could say that in this 6.5 minute video that, chapter 1 is introduction for a minute, then there's 1.5 minutes talking about whatever the first topic is, and so on. That's great, but still, that's like the chapters in a book. It gives you a rough general idea of what's happening. It doesn't give you specifics. What I'm looking for is specifics. So what I did is I built this tool, which I'm now going to show you. I need to actually reset all of this, which will just take a moment. You may be wondering why this is in Kaggle. It's in Kaggle because I did this for a Google Generative AI Week capstone competition submission, and it had to be in Kaggle. So first, I'm going to show you the tool. So I'm going to run that, and meanwhile, that's going to prepare the first cell of code, and I'll talk you through it. So I knew that I needed to use, there we are, let's jump to the end. I'll go back up. I knew that I wanted to use the transcript from YouTube. Why? Because in the transcript it has, the entire voiceover transcribed. I know for a fact that automated transcriptions are now at about 95% or more accuracy, which definitely is good enough to feed into an LLM. And also the amazing thing is that YouTube transcripts have regular timestamps. So I think it's every 10 or 20 seconds or so, it has a timestamp saying, at this moment, this is what's said on the voiceover track. That's great. That's extremely useful because I need both of those. So this tool, again, this was vibe coded. I wanted to make the prototype as quickly as possible to see if it works. So this code takes the transcript from YouTube and then it works with it. So it's obviously got the function which imports from the YouTube transcript API to get the transcripts. And then it does various things with it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what those things are because honestly, I don't exactly know. I can tell you on a macro level exactly what this is doing, but not on a micro level. And that's important because I already had this entire process mapped out in my head before I got Google Gemini to create any code. I knew that it should take the transcript from YouTube. It should use an LLM to parse that transcript to find out what it's about. And then it would pull all of the relevant keywords to the topic from the transcript, which is, as you can imagine, the start of an index. And then it takes all of the time codes from the transcript and takes the accurate time code of each time a term is mentioned and then creates a clickable link. So in the end, you get an index, which is every time a specific term is discussed in the video, and a clickable link that takes you direct to that moment. And again, all of this was vibe coded. So I'm going to get the URL from the video. That's the only input that a user needs to add. And you can see this first part of the code has been run. So I'm just going to add the URL. And it says transcript was downloaded successfully. And then it summarizes the topic of the video, which is apparently procrastination and a technique to overcome it using the so-called 15-minute rule. And then it gives a bit more context. That is, I'll show you how that works. So I have a prompt here, which is basically using Google Gemini, and this actually runs on Flash 1.5, a very basic LLM model from Google, but it's good enough. I've not had problems running this. So it runs the first prompt to ground the whole process. So as you can see, this is like the Google persona, context, task, and examples framework, prompt framework. So it starts by saying you're an expert librarian, you have a broad understanding of subjects, and you have excellent general knowledge. You can see all of this purple text is the first prompt. So the idea being that I'm taking a transcript, giving it to the LLM, and saying to the LLM, you're an expert on basically knowledge. As a librarian, they should understand where everything is cataloged, all of that knowledge. They have an information architecture for finding things, and that's what I wanted. And then I give it the task. I'm giving you a transcript from a video, analyze the file. Think deeply about the contents. I often put that into my prompt because for some reason it makes the results more accurate. And then tell me what is the primary overarching topic being discussed. So that is what it should be doing. And then I give it 3 examples, making it a few-shot prompt. Just 3 examples of the types of ways it could summarize the topic. And so, as I just showed you, that prompt has been run. And it's important to say the code within this project is vibe coded. The prompt I wrote. I'm much more confident about making prompts quickly, whereas code, it would take me a long time to make this, and Gemini did it extremely quickly. So yeah, here it gives the overarching topic, like the main topic of the video. I do that because I wanted the LLM to have a grounding in what was being discussed, so that then in the next chunk of code, it would understand the context to define what are the keywords within the video, which of course are the things that become the index. So let's run code cell 2. So this is going to extract the keywords, the main words within the video related to the overarching topic. And here we have it. So that's actually quite a long list, as you can see. Even though it's a 6.5-minute video, there's a lot being discussed apparently. And again, imagine that I'm a researcher. I've not watched this video. I can run this this code very quickly in the background and rapidly know if this video is going to tell me what I want to know, rather than watching the whole video, rather than reading the whole transcript, rather than looking at vague descriptions and chapters. I now know that this video discusses the 15-minute rule. It discusses imagination, things like horrible jobs, paperwork, productivity, and so on. Of course, that's all specific to the video. If it was a video about astrophysics, then it would have specific terms related to what is being discussed about astrophysics in that video. And you can see the numbers. Those are just counters of the amount of times these terms are discussed, which again is going to be very useful. So we have that. Next, I run a longer prompt, which takes that list you just saw, and now it turns it into, well, basically takes the same list, and instead of saying how many times something is discussed, it provides the start time where it is discussed in the video. And as I said before, that is taken directly from the transcript. So that's great. Basically, the information we need was all in the transcript. And it's important to say that, you know, I'm using text understanding here because that is much cheaper on compute and it's much quicker. You could run a model that understands everything, like multimodally, like the whole video, as in not just the text or the transcript, but also what's happening visually. Of course, in some videos that would be very useful. You might have diagrams that give extremely important information that enhance the voiceover. That's very likely. The other thing is it's extremely expensive to run in comparison to text understanding. So now we have the same list with start time codes. I think I need to point out that some things have changed. You know, the 15-minute rule, there's 1, 2, 3, 7 start times. Up here, it said it was mentioned 13 times. So obviously, running this second prompt, it has cut out a few of the mentions of that term. And there's a reason for that. Because, of course, with an index, I wouldn't want to have links where I can see that 15-minute rule is discussed like 3 times within a 20-second period. I don't need all of those. I would just want the first one, and then I would watch the 20 seconds, and I would get all of those references. So this next prompt does that. It turns the same list into a list with start times, and so I ask it to give those start times. And then if there are multiple uses of that keyword within a small chunk, like within 20 seconds, this prompt says, you know, omit everything but the first within that 20-second period. So then I've asked it to, up here, I asked it to give an alphabetized list of the keywords, just like an index. So now, after this third chunk of code, we have an alphabetized list of keywords, just like an index, with the start times. And the final part is super simple. Even though it's a big chunk of code, all it is doing is turning that same list into clickable links. This is quite simple to do because YouTube provides a process for creating, you know, basically you take the link for the video and you append a start time to the end of it. It's a clear process. So I just provided that to Gemini where it created code to do that. So this is the final result. You know, imagine that this is an interface for a user where they've provided a URL for a video that they want to find out what's in it. And now they've been given an index. So it starts by giving the same summary that we got at the start, just to give some context. But then more usefully, it gives this index of clickable links. So as a researcher, I don't need to watch the video. Just like with a book, I now have an index that tells me exactly what's in there so that I can jump to the most relevant parts. Let's test this. Let's say I want to find out about life changing. I'm going to click that link And then when the video appears, it's just loading, I'll click play.
Life-changing. It has made the most enormous difference to my life.
So as you can see, the index works. It jumps to the relevant moment within the video where that term is discussed. So that's the tool, that's how it works. As I said, I wrote the prompts, I did not write the code. I wanted this to be made really quickly. I'm learning coding, I'm not an experienced coder, but I've found that when I know what I want to do, vibe coding can take me there extremely quickly to make a prototype. It's very important to say this is not a releasable product. You would want experienced programmers to look at this and find the vulnerabilities, find the issues, find ways to make it more efficient. I think programmers in general are going to have to become so good at reverse engineering the prototypes that people like myself will make to find ways to build it better. But the great thing is that with vibe coding, I can show them exactly what I intend. I can show them a working version of software that does what I intend it to do. And that is incredible when the code hasn't actually been written by myself. So finally, I'm going to show you, this is right at the end. I prompted Gemini within one chat to make that whole thing. I think it was within the first 15 of my inputs I got the actual code, and then from there on I was asking it to help me write the article about it, to help me write a talk about it that I was doing in Prague at AI Tinkerers and various things. So it's actually, I think, only in the first 15 of my inputs that gets me to the final code. And the amazing thing is, there was actually on my first input that Gemini output code. I thought, I'm going to read out my first input because it's short. So I said to it, you're an expert Python programmer who's skilled at using APIs to connect systems. I knew that APIs were going to be needed for the downloading the transcripts from YouTube. I'm looking to create code in a Kaggle notebook. The goal is to create code that downloads a YouTube closed caption file when given a YouTube URL. Please guide me in the process of creating this code. What I expected when I input that was that it would tell me how to write the code, and it would tell me how to write that code within Kaggle. I did not expect that it would give me the actual code to use. So this is really long, I'm going to scroll down through this. It gives a lot of code. It basically gives the chunks of code, and then at the end it gives the complete code. So that is all great. And as you can see, I had all that code and I was like, well, should I include the example usage section? I wasn't actually sure what to do with it. And then it says, yes, include that. So I input it to Kaggle. And I got an error. What I did was I copy and pasted the error exactly from Kaggle into Google and sent that back. And it told me how to fix that. And so that was, I think, my third input into Gemini to create code. And then, as you can see here, I say that works. And I was so happy. I said thank you to an LLM. So as you can see, within 4 of my inputs to Gemini to create code, I have working code. I've vibe coded something that is actually working. It was by no means perfect in that first round, but then of course I iterated it over many turns. I think, as I said, up to 15 turns to get the code really working exactly as I wanted it, and it did. So I'm extremely happy with that. So as I've shown you, I wanted to create a tool that would make an index for YouTube videos the same way as you would have an index from a book. I built that in Kaggle because it was for a Google Google training week where they had a capstone at the end. And so there's this first chunk of code, which essentially takes the transcript from YouTube via their API and runs a prompt on it. with various things happening here, which, as I said to you before, I don't know what each and every little thing is doing, but I was working fast and I got a working result. And so, yeah, here, that was the first chunk run, and I input a URL from YouTube and it gave a summary. Then it used another prompt to find the main topic within, find the keywords which are relevant to the main topic within the video and create a list, an alphabetized list of those keywords, saying how many times each appears. Then it cut down that list so that we don't have too many occurrences within a short time period, and also turning the, instead of having the amount of times it appears, taking from the transcript the actual start times of each appearance. And then finally, it turns that list into clickable links. And this is completely usable. I know now from this vibe-coded tool that this will cut me a hell of a lot of time, rather than skipping through videos, trying to jump through the transcript, trying to do various things. This will save me so much time. So this is a working, usable tool, not releasable, but working and usable, that was vibe-coded. So, you know, I was stunned. I was extremely excited after having made this, because I now know that if I have my process worked out, where I know from start to end what I want the tool to do, which of course is something that I could do in conversation with an LLM to try and refine the process. But I feel that if I'm sure about what I'm aiming for and the step-by-step process, then I can use an LLM such as Gemini to actually create the code for me to do that. And I would just do it, you know, in conversation with the LLM, saying, I'm aiming for this. It gives me the results. I look at that and see if it's what I want, or just adjust it as I go, iterate, talk to the machine and get it to improve the output. So I hope this was useful and gave you a good insight into what I built. Vibe coding with Google Gemini to make a YouTube video index tool. Thanks for watching.